Now, evolutionists also believe, of course, that the flying reptiles evolved. On this slide, we see Rhamphorhynchus. Rhamphorhynchus, as you see, had a long tail with a rudder. And note the fourth finger that supported the wing membrane. All flying reptiles had enormously long fourth fingers to which the wing membrane was attached, stretched between that fourth finger and the body of the reptile. Now, this particular flying reptile, you note, had teeth. He was a toothed reptile. This is Rhamphorhynchus. Now, here we see another one of the flying reptiles. This is the Pteranodon. The Pteranodon had a long, toothless beak. And in this case, the fourth finger supported a wing spread up to 54 feet. Why, that's longer than the F-4 Phantom jet. I don't know about you. I'm glad that critter is extinct. I wouldn't want one of those things flying around today. But look at those creatures. Now, evolutionists believe that flying reptiles evolved from non-flying reptiles. Now, let's try to imagine how this may have taken place. We have this ordinary reptile, and then he has a mutation. One of the genetic accidents makes his fourth finger just a wee bit longer. Now, for some strange, unknown reason, this confers survival value. So in the struggle for existence, the reptile with slightly longer fourth fingers replaces the ordinary reptile. And now we have this reptile with slightly longer fingers. And then after thousands of years and a lot of bad mutations which are eliminated, we have another happy accident. Another good mutation makes his fingers get just a wee bit longer again. Struggle for existence, eliminating the original. And then thousands of years later, another happy accident. Fingers get longer and longer and longer and longer. Thousands of mutations. Gradually, through millions of years of time, makes the fingers get longer and longer and longer. Now, would you believe it? At the same time, other genetic accidents, these genetic mistakes that we call mutations, have created the wing membrane, the flight muscles, the hollow bones, and in the case of the Pteranodon, has converted an ordinary jaws and teeth into a long, toothless beak. Now, imagine, let us suppose we're about 25% along the way, and this creature has 25% wings. Well, obviously he can't fly, but he can't run any longer either. He's running around dragging those worthless, useless appendages around there. He can't catch prey. He can't escape predators. What's going to happen? He's going to be eliminated, isn't he? You see, once the flying reptile is complete, he has wing membranes, flight muscles, and all these characteristics required to fly, he flies. But you see, no intermediate stage would ever survive. And as a matter of fact, not even a trace of an ancestor has ever been found. Not even a trace. These flying reptiles appear abruptly, just as you have seen them on the screen, as we see them in the slide, complete from the start. That is powerful, positive evidence for creation, and absolutely contradictory to evolution theory. Now, the same case in the case of the bat. A bat is a flying mammal. Notice that the wing membrane is supported by those long fingers. And again, you see, then that means it's some ordinary land mammal, maybe a rat-like creature or a squirrel-like creature, gradually evolved into a bat as the fingers got longer and longer and longer, and the wing membrane had to be created, and flight muscles and all of these. And of course, in many bats, they have a sonar system, a method of echolocation, whereby they send out a signal which ricochets off the object, come back and received by the bat, and he interprets that signal. And he can identify the object and its speed and its location. And he can receive his own signal and identify that signal among thousands of signals that are going out by other bats. A remarkable system. That bat supposedly evolved during millions of years of time from some ordinary mammal. Well, here we see on the slide a picture of the world's oldest known bat. This was taken from the cover page of Science, December 9th, 1966. Dr. Glenn Jepson, the author of the article, claimed that these fossilized bones that we see in the center of the slide were found in rocks 50 million years old. And he said nothing related to a bat has ever been found that's older than this. And we see a reconstruction of what this bat must have looked like. All right? According to this evolutionist, here we have him, the world's oldest known bat. And what is he? 100% bat. He's essentially identical to a modern bat. He appears abruptly in the fossil record, and there is not a trace of an ancestor, not a trace of a transitional form has ever been found. And essentially no change since he appeared in the fossil record supposedly 50 million years ago. Is that the evidence that we'd expect for evolution? Of course not. But isn't it remarkably in accord with creation? Powerful, positive evidence for creation. But the evolutionist says, just a moment. We have Archaeopteryx. Now, there is a transitional form. This bird, they say, have characteristics intermediate, or has some characteristics that are reptilian and some characteristics that are bird-like, showing that he came from a reptile. Well, here we see the reconstruction of Archaeopteryx. Now, first of all, we note that he was a bird. He had the basic form and pattern of the avian wing. He had feathers that were identical to the feathers of modern birds. And feathers are very, very complicated structures. Now, the scale of the reptile is a flat, horny sheath. But a feather, on the other hand, has a central shaft. It has the barbs that radiate from the shaft, have barbules hooked onto the barbs, and little hooks on the barbules. And that allows the feather to be stiff, firm, and yet very light. And they are designed for aerodynamic function. And they develop totally different than the scale. The scale is merely a fold in the epidermis, while the feather, of course, is very complicated and develops from a follicle, just like the hairs on your head. Now, he did have teeth, had claws on the wings, and he had a long tail. And that's supposed to indicate that he came from a reptile. Well, maybe, but maybe not. What about the teeth? Well, it's true that modern birds do not have teeth, but in the fossil record, some birds had teeth and some did not. You know, that's not surprising, because that's true of fishes. Some fishes have teeth, some do not. Some amphibians have teeth, some do not. Some reptiles have teeth, some do not. Most mammals have teeth, some do not. And I suppose most of us have teeth, and some do not. But you see, really, the presence or absence of teeth does not necessarily say something about our ultimate ancestry. But what about the claws on the wings? Doesn't that show that birds came from reptiles? Well, as a matter of fact, there are several birds living today that have claws on the wings. They include the Hoatzin. The juvenile Hoatzin has 2 claws on its wings. Very handy for climbing back up in the nest when that little Hoatzin has to escape the nest when it's threatened. It can crawl back up in the nest, you see. The Turaco of Africa has claws on the wing. The ostrich has 3 very nice claws on the wing. But no one would claim for a moment that these birds are intermediate, because they are alive and well today. Now, furthermore, some scientists from Texas Tech University just in recent years found fossils of a bird in Texas which they claim to be about 225 million years old. Now, Archaeopteryx supposedly lived on this earth 150 million years ago. This bird supposedly lived on the earth 225 million years ago, 75 million years older than Archaeopteryx. So it should be almost reptilian, very much more reptilian than Archaeopteryx. But as a matter of fact, it turned out to be even more bird-like than Archaeopteryx. The evidence you see shows that birds have always been birds. The flying reptiles have always been flying reptiles. Bats have always been bats, and flying insects have always been insects. Here where we should have the best evidence for evolution, you see, it is not there. We have what the creationists would expect. We find this to be true throughout the fossil record. Each major type appears fully formed right at the start. Tremendous, powerful, positive evidence for creation, but contradictory to evolution.